Today I'm going to teach you some tips and tricks for answering audit questions on the CPA exam. So let's just pull up a random quiz generator from ChatCPA. On audit, all topics, 20 questions, mixed difficulty. Let's just, the absolute basic. So the first thing to do is actually read the end. What's the tail? What's the question being asked? When should the auditor revise overall materiality? Okay, so we know that this question is going to be something like the auditor made a materiality level, now they need to revise it, or when would this have needed to have been revised. So look for that in the question. At the start of year one, an auditor sets overall materiality using management's preliminary estimate of pre-tax income. During fieldwork, the auditor learns that the actual pre-tax income for year one will be much lower than originally expected. This information would have led to a lower materiality had it been known earlier. Okay, so when should they have revised that in the process? So for this question, I'm seeing a lot of those absolute qualifying words like only. We know from earlier videos that when they use words like never, always, must, only, like you can you can confidently cross them off your list. And right away, I see three of them, and I see one that doesn't have that only or never in it. So I'm going to pick B without even reading the answer options. Yeah. And you can read the explanations and it'll go through why. But this video is not about teaching you the content, it's about teaching you how to answer a question if maybe you're not even familiar with what's being asked. If it's a topic you've never touched on or read about, there are certain tricks like looking for these qualifiers, these onlys, these nevers, these musts. Those are classic traps that the exam writers use that you can use to safely eliminate some of the options. And this is a good example. Three of them had that. That's not always going to be the case. Usually it's going to be like one or two. So then you're left with maybe two or three. But if you're just guessing, out of two, that's a coin flip. That's a lot better than guessing out of four. But this one had three, so that's easy. Next, an auditor performed these procedures. Let's read the stem first, actually. Which audit assertion is primarily being tested by these procedures? Okay. An auditor performed these procedures for an accounts payable near year-end audit. 1. Obtained vendor statements. 2. Examined receiving reports. 3. Searched for unrecorded liabilities. There's three of them. Okay. So this is one of those the vouch versus trace questions. So you need to know a little bit of content to be able to answer this one, but the concept is pretty simple. So there's two types. There's trace and then there's vouch. For vouching, we're looking at a financial statement that has a number that's being reported, and we're vouching to something that corroborates that. Like, does this number exist? That's the assertion, the existence. Trace is the exact opposite. So you're looking at something like a document or an invoice or whatever, and you're making sure that that made it into the financial statements. You're tracing the path from the source document into the financial statements. So for this one, which assertion is primarily being tested by these? So which of those, like is it a trace or is it a vouch? So obtained vendor statements and reconciled them to the accounts payable subsidiary. Examined receiving reports. So you're already, these first two are documents, like source documents, and you're tracing them into the financial statements. So it's not existence. That's going the other way. That's for vouching. We can cross off A. Completeness. I mean, that's their answer here, because you're looking at these documents and you want to make sure that they made it into the financial statements. That is a completeness testing rather than cutoff or timing, valuation, and accuracy. Existence. That one's for vouching. The answer here is B, definitely. Now you couldn't get there by eliminating some of the like looking for absolute qualifiers like the last question had with the only, the must, the never. But for this one, and it's going to come up a lot, the trace versus vouch, just understand that concept and you'll get tested on it a few times. But it's pretty easy once you understand what you're doing. It is B. Normally we would go through here and read the explanations and figure out which or why the wrong answers were wrong. But this one was pretty easy. We can skip it. This video is already getting pretty long. Number 3, during the no, read the stem first. Which type of opinion should the auditor issue? Okay, so I'm looking at some of these qualified, adverse, disclaimer. Okay. During the audit of Pine, year 2, the auditor concludes that management did not write down certain obsolete inventory, blah, blah, blah. The misstatement is material, but the auditor concludes it is not pervasive. Bookmark that little sentence there. To the financial statement, management refuses to adjust the statements. That's not a great word. And there's no scope limitation. Okay, so let's pull in that table from earlier. Yes, so the two things you need to look for when you're on questions like this. Is it pervasive or is it not pervasive? We remember here in the middle, it concludes it is not pervasive. Okay, so now the only thing left to decide is it a gap misstatement or a scope limitation. And then we'll know that it's qualified. Okay, well, these are both qualified, so we know the answer is going to be qualified. But if we needed to look at whether it was a gap misstatement or a scope limitation, we would try and figure out, based on the question, whether the financials are misstated or whether the auditor was unable to obtain evidence or conduct a proper audit, which would lead to a scope limitation. But this one's qualified because we remember this table. Yes, no question about it. It's not adverse or disclaimer because it was not pervasive. If you just knew the pervasive versus not pervasive, you could eliminate all the other three, and then you'd be left with only qualified. So yeah, you did need to know a little bit of material, but it's just a simple 2-row, 2-column table. Pervasive, not pervasive. And then in the case of pervasive, the gap misstatement or scope limitation would come into play. But for something that's not pervasive, you're just given a qualified opinion. Number 4, Lane, CPA, is staff auditor assigned to the audit, a non-issuer. Lane personally owns 10 shares of common stock. The investment is immaterial to Lane's net worth and no independence issues exist, no other independent. Under the AICPA Code of Conduct, which conclusion is most appropriate? Okay, most appropriate. So all of these are going to be some form of appropriate, probably. But the question here, the action word of the question is most. Independence is impaired only if Lane helps decide the final audit opinion. Independence is not impaired because the investment is immaterial. Independence is not impaired because staff auditors are not covered members. Independence is impaired because a covered member may not hold a direct financial interest in an attest client, even if the amount is immaterial. Okay, so I like this bottom one, and I'll tell you why. That bit at the end, it's sort of like a secondary step in the answer. So all of these sounded good, but when the question is asking for something like most, you got to rank them. And just like a tip for you test takers, when you're about to get a set of answers that are all appropriate, but the question is asking for most, the answer more often than not is going to be the one that lists the good thing and then goes on to expand with like a secondary statement, and that's what you're getting in D. That's why I like it without even knowing, like, the cover member, is it impairment or not impaired? I don't know. I don't care. When I see most, when I see rankings, I like that. Okay, give me your answer and then qualify it with a secondary claim, like even if the amount is immaterial. So I'm choosing D. Yes. Next question, number 5. During the audit of 20x5 inventory, a material portion of a retailer's inventory is stored in an independent public warehouse. Okay. The auditor needs evidence about whether this inventory existed at December 31, 20x5. Assume no unusual fraud indicators and that the auditor can obtain any of the following. Which item would generally be classified as the most appropriate audit evidence? Okay. Again, you're ranking most appropriate. You to help you with this question, like there's only one thing you really want to know. It's like the ranking of what, like how strong evidence is. And from the earlier video, we know that the most or the strongest evidence, audit evidence, is from an external independent third party, not something you get from the client, not a rep letter, not a GL, whatever, not something you've tested yourself, like the substantive, any sort of like internal evidence is not going to be as strong as a third party confirming something, like reaching out to the bank and getting an actual confirmation of their bank balance at the year end, something like that. Or for this inventory, look for something coming from an independent third party. Look for evidence. Management, letter A, management representation letter stated. So right away, that's not going to be the most. That's something coming from management. The client, B, the client's year-end inventory list. So the client's listing. Again, it's okay evidence. Not going to be the most or the most appropriate audit evidence. A written confirmation sent directly from the warehouse to the auditor listing. Okay, so the warehouse from the question was the warehouse is an independent public warehouse. Okay, so C, you're getting something from an independent third party. That's really strong evidence. Let's see what D says. Shipping documents showing that goods were delivered to the warehouse October 2025. Shipping documents, I mean, they might be external, but it's delivered earlier in the year, October. So C and D are both pretty good. C is the strongest because it's coming from a third party and it's on the inventory date, December 31. So I'm guessing the explanation's gonna say the answer is C, but D was pretty close, but here's why. So read the explanation on D. Let's see what it says. C is correct. Yes, direct communication from an independent. Yep. But why is D? Read the explanation. Shipping documents may show the goods were sent to the warehouse, but because they were an earlier date, yeah, so exactly what we thought. D would probably be the next most appropriate, the next strongest piece of evidence. A and B are coming from internal generated management representation. Yeah, those are okay and they're necessary in an audit, but the strongest is still C, an independent third-party confirmation. So that was 5. Some quick tips and tricks on how to pass the audit exam for the CPA. So try yourself. Go over to chatcpa.io/exam and do over 3,000 audit multiple choice questions.